The headline shake-ups. What's new? What's wild? Before we dig into the controversies, guys, let's line up the biggest, most headline-worthy changes for the 2026 tour that everyone is talking about. First off, we have the Grand Depart in Barcelona. The 2026 tour will kick off on 4th July in Barcelona, Spain. Both stage 1 and 2 finish on Montjuïc Hill above the city. This is the fourth foreign start in 5 years. The race continues its flirtation with geographical variety. Then we have the team time trial returns, but this time with a twist. Now, I mentioned this in my last video, or one before my last, about Team Visma CEO kicking up a fuss, saying that this was a bad idea. So, after several years without one, the tour will open with a 19.7 TT in Barcelona, 19.7 kilometers by the way. But, and here's the twist that'll get teams rubbing their temples, each rider will be given their individual time rather than taking the time when the 4th or 5th rider crosses the line. The next thing we have is only one individual time trial. The 2026 route contains just a single TT. The stage 16 runs around 26 km from Evian-les-Bains to Thonon-les-Bains. Again, apologies for my pronunciation to my French viewers. That's a fewer TT opportunity than many recent tours, making every minute of that one test even more precious. The next thing we have is a double summit finish on Alpine de Huez. Perhaps the most dramatic tweak to this whole thing, stages 19 and 20 both finish on Alpe de Huez, 2 days in a row, on the same iconic climb. The second of those includes a punishing chain of climbs, Creux de Feu, Galabria, then the steep Col des Serenines route to Alpe. Then we have Montmartre Paris finale remains, but they actually tweaked it a little bit as well. The final stage in Paris will again incorporate the Montmartre Rue-le-Pic climb before finishing on the Champs-Élysées. The route will be adjusted so there's more distance after Montmartre's finish before the actual finish, or the top of it. They also want to recall the change that drew criticism in 2025 from sprinters and pundits, calling it, quote, dangerous or a shame. And I think that came from it being too narrow. Actually, Jonas spoke about this before the tour this year, saying that Montmartre was just way too narrow for the big peloton to get through. The next thing we have is brutal elevation and mountain breadth. The total vertical climbing in 2026 is set to be over 54,000 meters. The race will visit all 5 major French mountain systems. You have the Pyrenees, the Alps, the Jura, the Vosges, the Massif Central. In one edition, by the way, this is all happening. The new ascent stages in the Pyrenees include Gavarnie-Guédré, early uphill finishes to Les Anglais, and an extremely punchy first finish. So, that's the lay of the land. Now let's talk about what genuinely annoys teams, especially the time trial redesign. The TT controversy. This isn't really a TT. The TT change has become the political hot potato with the 2026 Tour reveal. Teams spent the last decade optimizing the classic TT. Today, bring the new rules and watch the spreadsheets combust. Why the change matters. Traditionally, in a team time trial, teams ride together. If one rider has a bad day, the time of the 4th or 5th rider often counts. That forces teamwork. You pull each other, shelter, rotate, and drag the weak links. That's the beauty of strategy in the TT. But now, each rider gets their own time. Ride fast, ignore your team if you want. The weaker riders no longer hold you back. Some call it turning the TT into a long lead out. Richard Plug, CEO of Visma Lease Bike, squawked publicly, "For me, a team time trial is a team time trial, and the beauty of it is that you need the whole team, and even if your number 4 or 5 has to be able to keep up." Quote, "This isn't really a team time trial, it's more like a long lead out for the leader." Plug also acknowledged that he sees the route's positives, the big final week, etc., but the TT twist rubbed him raw. Quote, "I'm not a fan of this format. This new version takes that essence away." If you read between the lines, guys, Visma built part of their tour dominance on traditional TTs. They optimized, engineered, practiced, and now those tactics may be partially neutered. That's a blow. The organisers' defence and a broader reaction. So what actually happened here? So the tour technical director, Thierry Giovannou, sees it differently to most of us. He says that the format is meant to encourage early GC differentiation while still allowing team roles to actually matter. In media coverage, it's noted that this new rule was previously used in Paris-Nice and gives a twist. It still involves teamwork, but it's more about which team supports the leader the best. Critics, and yes, I'll be one, argue that this change shifts emphasis from team unity to star power, which ironically benefits big names like Pogačar, who can ride fast alone, more than well-rounded squads as a whole. Ned Boulting even called it a course that favours Pogačar and criticised the minimal time trial stages for limiting other talents. Quote, "The course heavily favours riders like Tadej Pogačar and leaves little opportunity for others, notably Remco Evenepoel, to compete for victory." Cadel Evans weighed in too. Quote, "If you can't pog-proof the tour, the time gaps will be massive. In short, the TT change is the lit match that teams are now dousing with internal coordinated PR. What teams will hate and have to adapt to. The weaker riders on team lose leverage. If your domestique blows up early, he's no longer dragging down the time, unless the leader wants to wait, of course, which I don't think that would ever happen. Tactics become more leader-centric, and teams may sacrifice unity for individual result. Equipment and positioning will change. Riders who were optimized to ride in tight formations might now ride looser, more aggressively, and different aero demands. Yours have strategic risk. Teams must decide whether to ride together or allow splits. Forecasting splits becomes a total gamble, which, let's be real, makes it fun for the viewers. If I were a DS, I'd be having late nights saying, why did I spend 20k developing the wheel set when the rules changed? The Mountain Madness and Finale rewrites. If the TT twist is the mustard, the mountains are the full spicy sandwich. Tour 2026 is stacked so heavily on climbs and summits endings, it might need its own oxygen supply. Double Alpe d'Huez, the most brutal back-to-back. So one of the most controversial tweaks is that stages 19 and 20 both finish on Alpe d'Huez, 2 summit finishes in a row on arguably the tour's most iconic climb. Stage 20 is especially savage, skiing through the Jalabert, Croix de Fer, and then a rugged approach via Col de Sarine to the Alps. Plug praised parts of it, saying, quote, Alpe d'Huez is always fantastic. Col de Sarine is very beautiful, and maybe even a bit tougher, I think. I like it a lot. It will be brutal. In other words, yes, I'm complaining, but I also secretly love how tough you made it. Teams hate this for obvious reasons. Fatigue accumulation, less margin for error, fewer flat recovery stages, and every minute or every minute matters twice on the same climb. New climbs equals new pressures, which for most of these riders is super difficult. There are a bunch of other climbs and stages that have been changed. I really can't pronounce any of them because it's so difficult. You have stage 3, stage 6, and a couple of the other ones, obviously the finales which I mentioned. So the route as a whole also ensures every major mountain range in France is visited. That's a cool fact I found out, by the way. Comment down below your opinions in the comment section on what you think, if it's a good or bad idea on these changes. Leave a like on the video for good luck, and subscribe if this is your very first time here to stay up to date with the latest cycling news, the latest cycling drama, and the latest cycling results.